Madhouse Podcasting Network.
I know, I feel you.
Yeah, I know.
Doing this tired. All right. So, hey, welcome back, guys. Welcome to an episode 2 of Behind the Mask. Deuce. We're on a roll.
Yeah.
We're getting it moving. The train is leaving. What's up, dude?
Same old.
Yeah.
Just kind of coasting along today. Not doing a whole lot. Just, once we finally synced up on what we were going to do today, it kind of took us a while to get started, but now we're here. So let's knock this puppy out.
Yeah, I don't understand how something that seems so easy. Oh my god, with your freaking volume. Can you turn your volume off?
Sorry, dude, that was kind of loud, huh? My bad.
Super loud.
You can hear that through my mic?
Yeah.
There we go. Now it's on silent. Sorry, I forgot to turn it off.
It's all good. But anyways, yeah, technical difficulties. It's just crazy how something seems so simple can be so technically
True.
It's crazy. So
True statement.
We had it in episode 1. We had a little bit in this episode, so hopefully episode 3 will go smooth. I think the setup now is good.
It's just built into the precursor of recording, dude.
Yeah. So this episode we are actually going to get into Scott's background. Why he got into everything and how long he's been doing the haunted industry.
That's a long time.
Yeah, look at his head. He had a full set of hair, man.
I had a full head of hair when I started this nonsense.
And it was white.
No, it was jet black back then. Now it's white. See? Look.
Did you dye it after I met you, or?
Yeah, I didn't start dyeing it until probably 5 years into Ghost Town.
I don't know why I feel like I met you with blonde hair.
I had no hair, dude.
When I met you?
Yeah, 97. I was bald because I was the alien. Remember?
You were the alien. Okay, well let's start with that. So.
Wait, do you want to start there, or do you want to go back to the beginning?
Yeah. No, let's go back. Let's go. That's what I'm saying. Let's start. Let's. Okay. So what got you into Scary Farm? What made you do that?
Well, I mean, if you want to go way back then, I mean, I've always been a huge fan of Halloween. Probably just like for every other kid, for me, the big thing was being able to go door to door and get free candy. I mean, let's be realistic here. And it was always the candy bars that I wanted, right? So as that was going, I was always looking forward to that, one day out of the year. And then turned 16, 2 days before Halloween, me and my dad got this bright idea. Hey, let's just kind of throw something together and do it in the front yard. So me and my dad built some tombstones out of wood and a coffin out of cardboard. And I grabbed a couple of the neighborhood kids and 2 guys from high school and one of my classes. And, we had a little ghost and everything on a tagline from the eve of the house to a tree. And so we started that, just scaring the neighborhood kids and whatnot, chasing cars.
Right.
Not exactly a safe thing to do, but, we had a good time doing that. And then when I turned 18 is when I decided, I'm going to go ahead and apply for Scary Farm. Now, a little bit more of a reason of that was because my brother did Scary Farm for a couple years, and I think he did it for 3 years before I was actually old enough to do it. And I kept saying, dude, this is going to be rad because we can do this once I turn 18 next year. We started talking about it in 17. And then I go in 2018, or I'm sorry, I go in 1990, which when I was 18.
2018, I'm like, what?
Yeah. I go and apply. My brother decides, I don't want to do it. And he never came back. So I said, I'm going to run with it. I'm going to go have fun.
Right.
So I go in, and I don't remember if it was late in the hiring process or what, but I didn't have to audition at the time. I just sat down with the lead, and he says, okay, I'm going to give you a position as a lizard thing in the mine ride. Now, I know Jeremy, but if any of you out there watch and know how the mine ride is, you know how cramped it is in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So imagine being stuck in roughly a 3x3 box all night long.
Yeah.
So it was tough. I mean, I had a good time, but it was really tough. So, and I think back then, I think Haunt was like 10 nights. So that's going way back. That's over 30 years ago, guys.
Wow.
So had fun with that. And then I actually got put in, the next year I got put in the very first vampire maze. Yes, I was a vampire boy. You know, people like Spaz Davis, you know, and, you know, Lost Boy Mike.
Right.
Lost Boy Mike wasn't there yet, but he and I worked together later on. As you worked with Lost Boy too.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So the first maze was called Lair of the Vampire, and it was based on Bram Stoker's Dracula. And get this,
that was
the
great.
location.
The what?
The location of that maze was in Studio K.
Yep.
Which doesn't exist anymore. It was back there in the corner of Fiesta Village.
I remember that.
I mean, at the time too, that attraction was state of the art because it wasn't just come in and get the boo scare. They actually had a full-on acting sequence in the very first room. They bring people in, they go through the acting sequence, and then they shuffle them through the maze.
Right.
I was always put in the quote-unquote garden room. It was basically the tightest area of the maze, and it was just covered with leaves and stuff like that. So it looked like a forest.
Right.
So I mean that room was awesome, and I was like this vampire bat thing that was the first year I got a full prosthetic, and it was full face and a bald cap.
Oh, nice.
So it was cool, but damn, was it hot! It was blazing hot. So
yeah, the bald cap keeps a lot of heat in.
Yeah, it does. So I was in that maze for the duration. I think it was, I want to say 3 years that we had it.
Okay.
And then met some great people in there too, by the way. You know, I mean, which I don't ever see anymore except for Gary. I see him every so often. You know, we shoot the shit because we have that common thing.
Yeah.
And then after that, I actually followed the lead, the talent captain that was in there. I followed him to Industrial Evil in '95.
Okay.
So, which is where Gasoline Alley was, and kind of where Gasoline Alley and Soapbox Racers were.
Right.
We were in there, and that maze, those of you guys that don't know that may be watching, is Industrial Evil was, God, it felt like a mile long maze. There was multiple rooms. Did it not feel like that when you went through that?
It did. It was because of the Gasoline Alley track was so spread out.
Yeah.
It technically was long, but they spread everything out pretty well.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And the kicker is like not every room had the same theme.
Yeah.
Like there was a general synopsis, but every room had something different. You know, so it was kind of a cool thing too. But when I was brought in, my TC comes up and pulls me aside. He's like, "Okay, I know you're gonna go with me over here." I said, "Yeah, why?" He's like, "Well, here's where I'm gonna put you." And on the outside, the exit and the entrance is basically a midway where Supreme Scream is now, that area that goes from Supreme Scream into the boardwalk area.
Okay.
So that was all open like it is now, but he's like, "I'm going to put you outside the gate so you can slide."
Oh, nice.
So, and I'd already been sliding since I was 16, and in '95 I was 24.
Right.
So I got to slide there. He's like, "This is where I want you. If it gets busy, I'll pull you inside to work the exit." I was like, "Okay, that's cool." But he pretty much let me do my own thing.
Nice.
So that was kind of cool. And he kept telling me, like through the last few years, he kept telling me, he's like, I talked to Craig, who at that time was the Haunt father, and he ran all the street stuff, the street talent. He kept telling me, I talked to Craig and, you know, let him know you're interested in the streets and what your level of, you know, ability is. And every year. And then come 96, I went into auditions, and I went into rehire. And when I sat down at the table, I said, I want to talk to Craig Harold. And they said, why? I said, I want to talk to him about coming to streets, and I don't want to talk to anybody else.
Right.
So I got to sit down with him, and this is my choice on the zone that I went to was based off of what I evaluated prior when I was a guest.
Right.
So just from the outside looking in as a guest, you can see how these guys work. So Craig and I probably sat for about 10, 15 minutes talking about everything. And he asked me, well, where do you want to go, CS or Ghost Town? And I said, I want Ghost Town. He says, well, why Ghost Town? And I explained to him, it's like, from me being a guest, watching how everybody works, I go, the talent in Ghost Town is the kind of quote unquote family that I see that I want to be a part of.
Nice.
And he's like, okay, here's your paperwork. Don't let me down. Yeah. So
Wait,
here's
that was
go ahead.
that was during your last year as in Maze.
No, 95 was my last year in Maze, and then 96 when I went back to rehire, I sat down and talked with Craig.
Okay, so that was during rehab. Okay.
Yeah. So you know, funny thing is, my first year, I wish I had the newspaper article. It was LA Times.
Mm-hmm.
The mask I have is the same one you wore when you were Bone Brother.
Oh yeah.
Identical mask. It just had different wig.
Zargon mask, I believe.
Yeah.
The Zargon Studios mask. Yeah.
God awful mask, but it worked.
Right. I hope I'm saying that name right. I don't know if I am.
Yeah.
But big studio. They've been around for a very long time.
Yeah. So it was just a generic mask, and you know, the sock on it was great, and that was the biggest thing. I wanted something that would fit closer to my face, but the sock was cloth, so it's stretched out, and you can't wash a mask, so you can't, you know, it stays stretched out.
Yeah, it got loose, and it's a lot of alterations has to happen to those type of sock masks. Okay, so you did your stints in mazes.
Yeah,
so
I did a year in the ride.
Right.
In the worst ride possible you can work.
You did 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, dude, in the worst ride possible, I was in. I mean, if anybody knows anything about the mine ride that's worked haunt, you guys know that thing is like, it's tough to work in that attraction.
Yeah.
You know, especially when a lot of locations you have to have a harness on, you know, and you're cabled to the wall.
Yeah.
You know.
The one thing that I thought was always cool, and a few people have gone through it, but with you is you basically went through the proper steps before you got streets, you know, and you literally did like from the bottom of the barrel of mazes.
Scrape the scum off the bottom of the barrel, and that's where I started.
Freaking mine ride, the worst place to ever get, you know, positioned at. Yeah. You know, theoretically, and then you did your 3 years in the maze, and then underground.
Industrial Evil turned to underground.
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
Yeah,
I know it is
overall
underground.
called Auto Race.
Auto Race, yeah.
Yeah.
I always call it underground because that's what it was when I started.
Yeah, that's right.
In
'96 you were in underground.
Yeah, the year after. So you did your 5 years. You did your steps, which is, I think, possibly could have been a big reason why Craig was like, all right, you did your duty. Let's put you in the streets. So you're in streets now.
Yeah.
96.
Well, and here's the thing too, just to give you a little more back end on that, is like back then, like just before you started, I always wanted streets, but I knew I had to work up to it.
Yeah.
But that was a window of time where you couldn't audition for streets. The only way he got is if you were highly recommended, and Craig actually committed.
Right.
So and so when I had the talk with him, I told him, I go, I've been recommended the last 3 years to come out the streets, but I've never heard anything. So now that's why I'm here talking to you.
Right.
And that's why the conversation we had went for about 10, 15 minutes when it should have only taken like 2 or 3 minutes.
Right.
So I guess he was trying to get a little more insight on that. So that first year, 96 was great. You know, and the funny thing is, you know them all too, all the vets, you know, the Goblin, the Lion Drummer, Slider, Prisoner, and Bacon Boy, all those guys. So I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off every night. And for some reason, one time, somebody asked Todd, what's this guy's name, his haunt name? And without skipping a beat, I was like 5 feet away from my Herm said, without skipping a beat, he's like, Fanoogie, as in fucking new guy.
Right.
So that turned from Fanoogie to Major Fanoogie, and that stuck. So I turned to the Major fucking new guy.
Nice.
And that's when I tried to pass it off to you in '97 when we initiated you.
Yeah. I was happy to take it.
Yeah. So I kind of ran with that. Now, in '96 too, that was the year they did a big increase in numbers in Ghost Town. I think there were, I want to say around somewhere between 55 and 70 talent overall.
Okay.
In '96, they decided to bump it to, I think, 120. So that year there was, oh geez, what is that? Say 50 plus, times plus whatever to make 120. I think we had like
basically
60 something odd rookies that year. It's
almost
crazy.
like doubled it. Crazy.
Yeah. So if it was 55 or 60, we doubled it.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, we had like 60 something odd newbies that year, and that's when I met, guys like Gino, who, God rest his soul. That guy was hilarious. He's the one that came out with the original Thunder Jug.
Mm-hmm.
Comes out with a 5-gallon plastic Sparklets water bottle with nuts and bolts in it. And if anybody knows Gino that's going to watch this, some of the old timers that may watch, I just called you guys all old timers. You guys will know exactly what I'm talking about. He's a big dude, and he's got this big Thunder Jug, and he's dropping people because he's putting it over their head.
Big dude.
There you go.
Yeah, I never met. I wasn't lucky enough to meet Gino, but I heard a lot of stories, and I mean, from the sounds of it, he just sounded like a beast.
Yeah, he's the guy that broke the sink in Warehouse P.
Oh my God.
Granted, John A helped him with that, but Gino got stuck literally holding it with his head in the sink because it was falling.
Oh my God.
So, and for years after that, they just had a 4x4 post holding it up. So, sorry, we're getting totally off topic.
Yes, we are.
But, yeah.
So your first year, you got Meiji Funugi. Did you start? When did you start? Like you said, you were running around on your own, like a chicken with your head cut off. You get the nickname. Like when
Funugi,
did you?
yeah.
When did you start? Like really like hanging out with the crowd. Like when did you start finding your groove? And
well, as far as finding my groove in Ghost Town, that was day one.
Okay.
Like when I got out there, I'm like, this is awesome. I got a lot of room to work, and I can actually slide further instead of trying to slide around corners and mazes.
Right.
When it's still allowed sliding in mazes.
Right.
So having all that space, and initially I think the first 2 weekends I was kind of on my own, but I was watching where the vets would post up, and and then I'd kind of like, if they weren't there, like the first couple weekends, nobody was there, I'd just step in there, because it's just one of those things. You don't want to overstep your bounds when you come out there and piss anybody off.
Yeah.
So, and then over time, I just kind of pushed my way in and started talking to some of the vets. And then the next thing you know, Goblin Boy,
Right.
Green Goblin goes, hey, you wanna run with me tonight? From what I recall, I mean, I know we're going to get him on here too. So you may want to ask him on that just to be, clarified. But I think that's what happened. And that's how he and I started running together. We became close friends outside of Haunt too.
Right.
And that was all in 96. So,
and you
so
were
96.
What character were you in 96?
96, I was that skull character that you like, what you had in Bone Brothers.
Okay.
Yeah, I was generic character. I just wore the old school leather vests, which I know you have one.
Yep.
A red shirt and these god awful jeans that they gave me. And it turns out they kept binding on me, right?
Mm-hmm.
It turns out they gave me chicks jeans. And I'm like, what the hell? At the time, Bonnie was wardrobe. I said, Bonnie, these jeans, they keep binding. Can we fix them? And she's like, well, you gotta blow them out first. I said, can't we just put a gusset in there because they're really tight? So sure enough, they blew out. So we put a gusset in there, and that helped a lot. They were still really tight in the thighs, though.
And you ran with chick jeans the whole time.
Yeah. They were like, it was weird. Now that like after she told me that, I kind of stepped back and looked at it. They looked like galactic wash Wranglers. So I mean, chick jeans.
That's so funny.
So yeah, I mean, with that, it was just a generic character. I think I was gruesome number 75.
Right.
Or 73, one of the two. I didn't care though. I didn't really have a name. I just was stoked to be in Ghost Town and, running with all these guys that I used to watch growing up.
Yeah.
I've said it before, is like Green Goblin is one of the guys that I really watch. I'm like, I want to do what he does.
Right.
Before I started working there. So, and what's funny is we're going to bring this up when we talk to him. I was a fan of him, and then working side by side with him, fanboy moment.
Oh, I can imagine.
Circle,
I can imagine.
right?
Yeah.
Crazy, huh?
It's so crazy because I didn't have that fanboy moment.
Yeah.
I actually didn't have like anything in the sense of like, oh my God, I'm on Ghost Town. I didn't know any better. We'll get into that on the next episode, but
well, you weren't exposed to it as much as I was.
yeah, but it was kind of cool to witness a lot of those. A lot of people had those fanboy moments because, you know, of course they're going to go into Haunt because they're fans, you know, and you know, being able to run with these people that they've seen scare out there, is I can imagine it's kind of a cool moment.
Yeah, it was super cool. But here's the thing too. It's kind of tricky. Like, if you come in to Haunt as a guest and you're a big fan of these characters, and you have an opportunity to work with them, you take a job or whatever, and you start doing your thing. No matter where you end up, whether you work with the characters you're fans of or you work in a maze, some new people don't realize how physically and mentally demanding the event is, even when it was a shorter run.
Right.
You know, I mean, it is physically demanding, you know, and that plays into the mental aspect. If your body's physically trashed, your mental state's going to go that way too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, luckily I've been an athlete my entire life.
Right.
So, I mean, I've had a couple of down years, and it was a noticeable performance difference for me.
Well, which is why they do a lot of backups. I was a backup when I first started. Yeah. And I didn't work the first weekend. So, you know, obviously a lot of people dropped out, which is what we witnessed years, you know, throughout all the years. Like that first weekend, we'd have, you know, 120, 130 monsters, and then you would just see like, you know, 10% of them just drop out because they just couldn't handle it within the first 2 weekends or whatnot.
Yeah. Well, also back then too, we didn't get days off.
We didn't. No.
Yeah, it's like, these are the days you need to work. You available? Cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so. It wasn't, I don't know. I don't remember if it was like, if they were just weren't flexible about it, but I think they were, but I mean, for a majority, for a good part of it, but I don't remember, like, at least with me, I was like, I never wanted to take a day off, except for when we went like 7 days in a row, because working the 2 jobs ends up becoming, but we still did it. You know,
I think the longest run I was ever a part of at Knott's was 28 nights. And the last run was, I believe it was 7 straight days.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah. We've had a few
But damn, when you get in a rhythm, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah. You're tired. I mean, you're totally worn out by the end of that, but
pure adrenaline.
It's exactly. Energy drinks and sugar.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't know any better back then.
Actually, you know what's funny is, like, even back then I was diluting my Gatorade.
Yeah.
Because there's, you know, I didn't like the sweetness of it. And also, like, sometimes if I just needed a quick sugar rush, I'd drink the berry punch, but I would dilute it either half with water or just throw a little bit of Sprite in there just so I got the flavor.
Yeah.
And then run back out, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, 96 was a big year for me because that was my rookie year in the area I wanted to be. But 97 actually was more impactful.
So that was going to be my next segment was 97 because when I met you, you were a part of the hanging group. So how did that come about?
Well, so apparently, I mean, Craig evaluates everybody from the year before, and if they need somebody to fill those spots. So apparently I did something right because Craig had been watching, and at the time, Wade the Goblin was in charge of all the was kind of spearheading all the talent that he wanted to put together. So Craig gives him a call. He's like, so these are the people that I think would be really good to add to the hanging cast. Right. And he gave him the name. He's like, Dieterman. I want to take him and put him in the show with us.
Nice.
So I got a call from Craig, and he's like, hey, it's Craig. So we're talking a little bit. He's like, so I wanted to offer you the hanging and makeup. I'm like, what? In my second year, so I'm like thinking, you got to be shitting me because you got to work into that.
Yeah.
And he's like, the hanging and makeup. I'm like, oh yeah, 100%. I'm totally down to do the hanging. You know, I go, I'm not going to lie. I'm surprised that I'm being offered. He's like, and he's kind of like, you earned it. You know, that's why I'm calling you. And, you know, he says, wait, out of the list of people that I gave to Wade, he chose you without even skipping a beat.
Nice.
So from there, he's like, okay, I'm going to put you, get this, dude. I'm going to put you in the Phantom of the Opera costume. So you remember that? Like, you remember, what's his name? The Floral Phantom?
Yeah.
It was going to be like that costume. So after I confirmed with him, I'll take the job, I'll take the makeup, he calls Wade back. He's like, yeah, so I'm going to put him in the Phantom costume. And Wade's like, don't do that. And he's like, why? He's like, you know, he slides. He's going to destroy that costume. He's like, oh, that's right.
Right.
So he calls you back. He's like, I'm taking you out of the Phantom costume because I know you're going to slide. I'm going to put you in something else. We'll find you a prosthetic.
Nice.
So,
which is the prosthetic that I thoroughly like.
Yeah, it's funny though. That was the fourth one that they fit on me before they got it right.
Right.
So it's weird because the one I vividly remember is, I don't know if you remember a guy by the name of Just Todd. That's his real name, Just Todd. He was a monster out there with this big ass red wig. It was like this, super teased out.
I don't remember.
Okay, maybe not. I wish I had a picture.
97?
Well, he had left, and I was going to get his face, and they put it on there, and I had this much room in my chin. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Because he had a long face.
Oh.
So, and that's when I met my first makeup artist, Lynn, too, who was amazing.
Yeah.
She's like, well, that one's not going to fit. Throws that one out. This one's too small. That one doesn't look right. And then finally we got to the end. She's like, this one's perfect. And she shows me, I'm like, yep, let's do it. Nice. And the best part about that was that because I had a shaved head, we could glue it down all the way back here.
Right.
So, I mean, it fit great here and it glued like this all the way around. And then I had these Spock freaking ears and shit.
And it worked good with your head shape. It looked really It looked really good. I know you didn't
She was an amazing makeup artist, though.
Oh, yeah. She was great.
So it made it look like it was, I mean, even right here, sometimes it looked like there was no seam.
Right.
So I was hyped on that.
Yeah. That's when they had more time to do makeup back then.
Yeah. So, and they weren't using airbrushes yet. It was all grease paint.
Right.
And brushes and stuff. So,
Yeah.
Those are good times back there. And then, doing being in the hanging cast was great because we actually came in early to do rehearsals and stuff. Now, mind you, the monsters the Ghost Town talent that were brought into the hanging, we were there to provide safety for the cast.
Right.
And clearing props when things were in the way for the next sequence.
Right.
And if you guys don't know, like back then the sequences were really tight because there was so much that Tom crammed into one show. So we had a matter of not even 2 seconds to grab something and clear it before the next bit came through.
Right.
So, but all of that, it was really fun, and that's when we started the slider shows too.
Was it that
in the corral?
That first year?
Yeah, 97. Like it was just us just screwing around. It's like, hey, let's try to do this and try to do that.
See I didn't know.
Yeah.
I thought that you guys had already been doing that.
Well, the actual show part,
like the beginning.
That came to fruition in 97, like where we started doing Slider Pede, Monster Drag Racing. That's when I first introduced jumping to the group.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy too because I didn't think I could do it, and I just kept going and going and going and going. I mean, nowadays these kids are ridiculous, and they're clearing 5 people more than I ever did.
Yeah.
So ever could, even at this point, Well,
we'll get into that in the slider episode, but
yeah.
So you did 97, your first year in makeup and hanging. So let's go into Pyro. When did you start Pyro? And tell us.
Really, we're gonna skip the other character in between.
What was the other character?
You remember the one that was super angular? It had brain matter right here.
Yeah, we'll skip that one.
Okay.
Your chisel.
That was my first actual fully custom piece, though.
That was your casted piece.
Yeah, it was my first custom piece where they molded it.
All right. So how many years were you in the? It was a fish, right?
No, it was a weird kind of. I took a bunch of inspiration from different comic book characters that I wanted.
No, I'm talking your first prosthetic.
Alien.
It was an alien.
Yeah, it was listed as an alien.
Yeah.
But you could call it what you want because it had big eye pockets.
Yeah.
So it looked like a fish too.
So you were in that for 1 year, right?
I was in that for a year.
Okay, then you got casted.
Then I got live casted.
And then you did this whole brain thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so where was your inspiration of that one then?
That one I couldn't really pinpoint what I really wanted, but I wanted to base it. I wanted to pull different elements from comic book characters.
Okay.
So I would just flip through the comics I had. I'm like, okay, I like these eye shapes. I like this forehead, and I want something angular on the cheekbones. And that's what I got. And
they just decided to throw in the brain thing.
Actually, that was Kat's choice on that because Kat actually sculpted everything for me. She decided to put on the brains, which I really liked, and the stupid pouty lip that I hated. I fucking hate that.
Yeah.
They left it on. So, but then as things started developing, we're like, let's just cut the chin off because I had a beard.
Yeah.
So then I just had this part here and no chin.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and that's when I started dyeing my hair.
Okay.
98, because it was frosted tips, blonde,
Right.
and burgundy.
Yeah,
Obviously, two different times, two different years. One year was blonde.
I don't remember the burgundy.
Yeah, I was in that phase 2 years.
Okay.
You know, and that was kind of still. I didn't really have a character for that. You know,
Right.
It scared the shit out of people because it looked weird, but
it was an odd.
Yeah.
It was an odd design.
That actually turned into a marketing promo piece too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you know who else wore it?
Who?
You're gonna shit when you, dude. Tweak wore it too for a year.
Oh, God. Tweak.
Yeah. Tweak's
funny.
brown shoes.
Tweak's brown
That's when
shoes.
That's when the brown shoes came up. Tweak's brown shoes came up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, okay, so I was in that for 2 years. So that puts us at 97, 98, 99, 2000.
Okay.
In
Right.
2000, I got remolded again. I got a new piece sculpted for me.
Okay.
And initially, this is the start of Pyro now.
Okay.
Initially, that wasn't the direction I was going. I was going with a demon type of thing. And the biggest inspiration for that, believe it or not, was the show Angel, the spinoff from Buffy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I bet you didn't know that, huh?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there was a character in there, I think he was called the Mora Demon. And I loved the structure of his face. And he had horns right here, like this. That's why it had those horns, right?
Okay.
So, and then my makeup artist had switched too to Mel Smith.
Amazing.
Another one, God rest her soul.
Amazing.
Like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I told her what I wanted. I gave her a picture. I said, this is it. She's like, oh, that's easy. I'll do it. So she sculpted it. And quick too, I think less than a week later, I got a message from her with a picture of it.
Nice.
You know, she was like, is this good? I'm like, oh, 100%.
Nice.
You know, so the only thing that she didn't put in was a little stone that was supposed to be right here. And I'm glad she didn't because it looked better without it.
Right.
So, and as that character developed, there was a chin on it too. And then there was times where I didn't have a beard, so we left the chin on. And there was times where we just cut it out so my beard could stick out,
right.
Type of thing. So about halfway through that first year, I'm like, okay, this is what the direction I want to go. I was trying to, because ever since I was a kid, I've always been intrigued by fire, the look of it and everything. So I wanted the character to be tied into fire somehow.
Okay.
So then I was looking at that, and I was looking at, okay, how would this tie into the lore of Ghost Town?
Right.
And as soon as I thought that, bling, a light went off in my head, the blacksmith shop.
Right.
You know, and because we already had the blacksmith, which was Bone Daddy at the time.
Right.
I was the apprentice.
Okay.
You know, so and Ted Doherty actually helped me develop a backstory. I gave him all the info on what I wanted, and he's like, oh, okay, we got it. So what we ended up doing is talking about the curse came to Ghost Town, and somehow I got wind of it ahead of time, and I left. So obviously, because the curse of Ghost Town is the witch turns everybody to animals. So I split. I was gone for, I don't know, I think it was listed as 10 years.
Okay.
So for some stupid reason, I came back and to the town to see, you know, because it was dilapidated, it was abandoned. I went back to the blacksmith shop, and a lot of the stuff I made was still hanging up in there. So somehow the townsfolk got wind of that. So they came to track me down because they were pissed that I left. Okay. So they beat me up. And this is where it gets kind of weird because they dragged me to one place and dragged me back. They beat me up, dragged me to the railroad tracks, pushed my face in the dirt, and hammered railroad ties and spikes through the back of my head. Okay. And that's where the spikes come from.
Okay.
Now, later on in evolution, it's more prominent, right, the look of it. So once they did that, they brought me back to the blacksmith shop, and they threw me in the forge. That's where Pyro comes from. Okay. Fire. Right. It was born from fire. So it's kind of a weird thing, but it all ties into the folklore of the old, you know, Ghost Town from back in the day. Right. And whatnot. I mean, I even designed it to where the colors I was painted was based off of the anger that Pyro was feeling. Like if I was black and gray, that means I was mellow and cool. If I was red and yellow, I was pissed. And if I was like the blue and white, which is the hottest flame,
Right.
I was super angry.
Nice.
So we kind of tied all that in together, you know.
Yeah, that's good.
And I was in that phase at least 3 years before we did another resculpt, and that's when you sculpted the next one.
Yeah, which was that was awesome. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And because you and I got to work together on that, and that ended up becoming really ended up being, looking really good. That
was the final version at that I wore as a prosthetic on a regular basis at Knott's. You know, there's times that I did different things with that. I shaved my head with that too, you know, and you know, with the branding on there too that we had, my makeup artist trailed it back to the back.
Yeah, which
on my
always
head, stuff like that.
That always looked good.
Yeah, I did mohawk too with that.
Yes, you did.
So because the prosthetic was so big up here, my hair's got a fucked up hairline, so the mohawk started here and went like this. Right. We just cut the prosthetic around it.
Right.
You know.
Nice.
So that was a lot of fun doing that character, you know. And then that was the second generation. Then the third generation you did too.
The mask.
Yeah, the mask, which was a pullover, but that thing was even better than the second generation.
Right. But the second generation you pretty much ran with the whole time. The rest of your run.
Yeah, the rest of my career as talent.
And I
ran with that.
Yeah, and we did the pullover because you wanted something when you didn't want to wear makeup. You would just
like on slow nights.
Yeah.
So, and you know, everything was copacetic, and it's great too because I mean, when you look at it, like even though it had ears, it looked like makeup.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It was even mistaken for makeup by Tim.
I know.
He straight up asked me, "How did you do that to your ears?" Like, what are you talking about? I was like, "How are they all burned on top?" I'm like, "Really, Tim?" And he knew I had a mask too.
Right.
You know, because he approved it.
Well, the cool thing was like, I thought, I mean, kind of defeated the purpose of wearing a mask, but the cool thing was like you would leave your mask on the whole time, like you never took it off.
Unless I ate. That's the only time I took it off because it was easier to eat without it.
Did you leave it on, or did you take it off when you ate? I thought you left it on like the whole time. Hence the reason why Tim thought it was makeup, because you never really took it off.
Yeah, no, I only took it off when I was eating at Crew's Nest.
Okay.
So, but for Tim to be like, "Dude, how did you do that to your ears?" Because he knew my prosthetic didn't have ears.
Right.
And I told him, "Tim, this is the mask." He's like, "Oh my God, it looks like makeup."
Yeah.
He's like, "That looks so good." So, you know, it played right into what we needed.
Yeah. Yeah, that one worked out really well.
Yeah. So Pyro was my last character from start to finish.
And you did Pyro for how many years?
Oh, geez. It's from 2000 to, I can't remember.
Okay.
Over 10 years. Right. So, you know.
So when, at what point did you decide, you know, I think it's time to hang up the monster scare actor aspect of it and then kind of move into your next phase?
Well, it's weird is because I actually had started thinking about making the next, you know, transitioning to the next level. I say next level because, you know, it's going into management. Mm-hmm. About 2005. And I say that because that was about the time where I kind of approached Craig. I said, "Hey, Craig, have you guys ever thought about, I know we got talent captains in every area, but you guys ever thought about somebody else in like a managerial supervisor role that actually mentors the talent, like another person that watches the talent, says, hey, you know what, let's try this, let's take this away." And we had, I don't know, it was probably a 30, 40-minute conversation one day. It was during a haunt night. And I always got there early because my makeup time was like 3:25.
Right.
So, that's really early. I don't think they have that spot anymore. So we talked for a while, and he's like, you know, that's a really good idea, but it never actually came to fruition until much, much, much later. I think 2012.
Oh, okay.
When it came into fruition. So don't quote me on that, but yeah. So, you know, and it was good because, you know, I mean, when I first transitioned into management, I became a TC. I just figured, hey, you know, I think it's time to maybe move the next direction.
Yeah.
To see what I can do. And sure enough, I became the TC for Ghost Town.
Nice.
So, I got to run. I did that, and then that was. It took a little bit for me to get adjusted because obviously I was in a different position.
Yeah.
So, and that's when we had to wear those bright ass yellow shirts. Still, I hated those.
Well,
Those were so bad.
You didn't wear the orange shoes, also, did you?
No, that was only for upper management.
Yeah, I know.
Those came from Jack.
God, Jack.
And then I became cast lead later on for Ghost Town.
Right.
And that was until 2016. Then I moved away. Trying to start over. Trying to get a fresh start on life, and moved to Boston for a year, and I was there for exactly a year, or a little bit over a year. I moved out there January 2017. Came back January 6th, 2017. I was back here January 12th or 13th, 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So what was the biggest, minus being able to scare people, what was the biggest challenge? Minus not being able to scare people, which should be my, what I should say, but what was the biggest challenge transitioning from monster to talent captain or / lead?
Well, the biggest thing was, and it wasn't really on my part, it was getting the people that I was supervising to understand, guess what? I'm no longer a co-worker with you. I'm not a monster with you. I am now your supervisor.
Right.
So that was a little bit of a hill I had to get over.
I can imagine it's pretty tough too.
Yeah, it's tough, and people were worried about that, but it was a transition that I made.
Right.
And if anybody knows me, I'm sure people are going to watch this. They're going to know me. People will say, oh, he plays favorites. I never play favorites. People that work extra hard get rewarded. People that fly under the radar get nothing.
Right.
If you do your job, no problem.
Right.
If there's, you'll get, if you don't do your job, I'm going to pull you aside and tell you, hey, this is what needs to change.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, the bottom line is you're out there, you're supposed to be providing entertainment for the most part, and if you're not providing that, then that needs to be handled.
Well, one thing I did have to kind of refresh people on all the time is like, hey, you know what? You guys are supposed to go out there and have fun, but guess what? It's still a job. You're getting paid to do the job, so you need to do it under the guidelines of the company that's paying you.
Right.
Right. So, let's face it, we're all kind of, anybody that does haunt, plays monster, we're all attention whores on some level.
Of course.
On some level. You have to be in order to do that. You got to be a little bit nuts to do what we do. There's thousands and thousands of people that will do it.
Right.
And that's great for the companies. It can be tough for the actual talent because, at any time you can be replaced. Easily. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
I think too, for me, being monster for so long, it helped me manage more effectively because I could sometimes see things before the talent sees it. And I can also look at the scenario from both points of view. It's like, okay, these are the scenarios I've been through. You're going through the same thing, and it's better for an evaluation standpoint.
Right.
And then you can help with how things are reacted to going down the line.
Did you find it difficult to go from, basically running and scaring with your friends to, and these, the group of people that you were scaring with to having to quote unquote guide them or manage them? Like, did you find it difficult? Did you have to get over a hurdle doing that?
Not with the guys that knew me. Those guys were fine. Some of the people that didn't, you got people that try to push the envelope. So, you let them know, and that's, and you deal with it accordingly. But for me, the joy in a haunt event flipped. Initially, it's all about getting to scare, and that's the most enjoyment for me.
Right.
Now, because I am in management, it's about watching my group work. When my group is working and they're on fire, oh my God, it's so entertaining. I love that.
Nice.
You know, and that was a good thing about being in a management type of role, because you can post up in one area, they don't see you, and you can just watch them flooring people.
Right.
You know, so it kind of changes. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of other things you have to deal with when you move up the ladder, but for me, it was a welcome addition to what I to what I wanted to do.
Right.
So, and I still do that now, obviously. You know, I mean, I'm not at Knott's anymore, but
Right.
you know, transitioning over to Dark Harbor, dude, the experience over there has been nothing but great. I've had a lot of opportunity thrown my way, and
So
you know.
let's transition into Dark Harbor then. So you come back from Boston that year, you end up at Dark Harbor instead of Knott. They've obviously filled the position at Knott. So what was the biggest differences between the two events that you noticed or had trouble with, I guess you would say, if you had trouble with, or was it smooth and just kind of like?
Yeah. Initially, I didn't know that they had to fill a spot, and it's funny, the spot that I got wasn't actually available until after I interviewed. But the way I found out was I got a text message from John Cook out of left field.
Oh.
You know, and he's like, "So, you gonna come and work Dark Harbor?" And I'm like, "What?"
Oh yeah, because John was doing the maze design at that.
Yeah, he was in charge of design.
Okay.
So a guy's a creative madman.
Right.
So and I'm like, "What?" And so I said no, and he's like, "Well, go apply." So I applied, and I actually reached out to my boss, David Wally. At the time, he wasn't my boss, but I knew him because I did I helped spearhead the first Sliders Unite show at Dark Harbor. So I was talking to him, and I said, "Hey, David, I understand that you guys are looking for somebody to fill a position to supervise streets." And he says, "Actually, we don't have a spot now." He's like, "But what I suggest you do is put in your resume and interview." And I said, "Okay, done." I did that. And here's where timing was fucking spot on for me. Like it could not have been more perfect. So I interview with the guy that's in charge of all the other
Sorry, dude.
the maze leads
for
Dark Harbor. And so I'm sitting there and talking to him, and I must have been sitting there with him for like 45 minutes to an hour. And unbeknownst to me, after I left, he called David and says, you need to hire this guy. It's like, I can't utilize all of what he brings to the table." So I think it was the next day I got a call from David, because, and the timing is that the person that was initially in that supervisor spot for streets just dropped out. It says, "I can't come back."
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he calls me. He's like, funny thing is, this is, the street supervisor position has opened. And I'm like, "What? I thought it was full." He's like, "Actually, the person just dropped out."
Nice.
He's like, "I'd love to have you if you want to take the position." I said, "I'll take it." He's like, "Okay, you're hired. Come in and get your paperwork done."
Nice.
And then I was brought on, and one of the biggest things that he brought me on for is because he already knew my background over at, what I did at Knott's, and also that, with being heavy in the slider world, he basically told me, "I need you to take this team under your wing and rebuild it." Not rebuild it per se, but get them on the path.
Yeah.
So basically, I covered all of the street zone, sliders and non-sliders. The biggest change for me was the number of people. At Knott's was totally different. Like at one point, there was a time where I was overseeing about 150, 200 people.
Oh, wow.
In 2 zones. And then the later years, I got down to like around 80, 90, but then going to Dark Harbor, I had 40.
A lot easier to manage.
Yeah. So, but on the flip side of that, I walking into that, I didn't know it was, how things were in the past. And I kind of walked into a few scenarios that happened way before I was there that I had to try to fix to get everybody moving forward.
Right.
So, but, with doing that, it's been great. I mean, I love working with David and his team. Everybody's super cool. In 2019, he sent myself and Lee out to Orlando for the Dark Horizon event, which is a sister haunt that I don't think is coming back because the hotel plot that it was on, land that it was on, closed down.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So, but he sent us out there to handpick and train a slider team from the ground up.
Nice.
And that was fun because I had 2 girls that didn't even know what sliding was. They came out to give it a try, and thank God they had a good. Yeah, they learned quick. They had athleticism, So within 3 or 4 hours of the first day, I had them sliding very comfortably.
Nice.
And then by the end of the show, we had the entire team, good enough to run the event without myself there, because I did not get to go back during the run of that event at all.
Mm-hmm.
David was going back and forth, so he needed me to stay in Long Beach to help the team there. So
well, that's good.
It was awesome though. And now here we are.
Here we are after a pandemic, and
Yeah.
So can you?
Crapdemic.
So clearly, the year we're in, Dark Harbor is not coming back this year.
Yeah, we haven't got the official word, but it's highly unlikely considering
nothing's
we're under
been
3 months away.
Yeah, it's probably not going to happen. And it's unfortunate because that's a great event.
Well, it has a lot to do with what's going on with the boat right now too.
Yeah.
The changeover and everything. So
yeah, a lot of stuff is happening with that.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
So, can you say what you're doing this season? Is there something in the works? Are you taking the season off? Like, what are you doing?
No, last season I took off, and that was really good because I was able to go see home haunts, facades, stuff like that, which was awesome.
Right.
I haven't done that in forever. But this year I am back in the mix. Funny you mentioned, because I got a couple of things in the fire. One, I actually am a lead over for LA Haunted Hayride.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, so I'll be working there this year, and we're still working on the staffing for my area.
Okay.
I don't know how much I can say on that, but we'll just leave it there.
Right.
And also, those of you that do know me, you guys know I started a slider training and development company for haunt monsters, and this has been something that I've been trying to go over in my head for probably the better part of 10 years, 10 years, and finally it's coming to fruition. I put it into effect, and I'm actually contracted out for an event across the country, and also in talks with another event in another state as well.
Nice.
So to get their talent up and trained and ready for their event. So I got a lot going on this year. It's kind of crazy. I mean, I got a full plate, and it's exciting but stressful at the same time. You got, when I say tight windows, this first one's a tight window. I actually fly out next week on Tuesday to get things running out there. That's a 1-day turnaround. Then I got to go back out. So at a later date. So it's a little bit crazy, but I'm excited because I'm going to be doing something that I really love to do, and something that over my 30 plus years in the business, I've been really working on developing, in the sense of not knowing that I wanted to do something like this, but being a slider for so long now, what I offer is a full gambit of everything from, not just sliding, but cross training, diet discussions, how to hydrate, sleep patterns, everything leading up to it. So basically, essentially, like a small term is that I take the trial and error out for this generation. That way they can learn at a faster rate with less risk of injury.
Right, and not have to quit the second weekend.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people had to do back in the day.
Yeah.
Because that was the place.
Sliding is a weird thing. Let's be real. A lot of people like to do it. Getting hurt is inevitable. So I don't say that I'm completely eliminating the possibility of injury. I'm just reducing the risk of injury by doing things properly.
Right.
And having the correct body mechanics and muscle development to reduce those possibilities.
Right. Which we'll get into in another episode. So yeah. I mean, I think this would be a good spot to end your history, because we have more current stuff that we're going to talk about in another episode.
Yeah.
Which will be slider specific. So Yeah. So.
Yeah, that was just a little excerpt.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course. No, of course.
So
Well, that's good, man. I mean, it's. I mean, I've known you that whole time for the most part, except for the first 5 years of your career.
yeah,
And a lot of it I didn't know, and it was really interesting to sit and hear it, which you know I love that. So especially the
well, I've been super quiet about it until I started really getting things pushing forward, and now it's starting to happen a little bit. You know.
Yeah. No, and that's
The wheels are turning.
Yeah, that's great, and that's awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you for sharing your story, bud. I appreciate it. I hope the audience appreciates it, and they've learned something from it. That you're a monster. Pun intended.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying being a monster will never happen again, because it's always a possibility.
It's always nice to go out that one night, you know,
Yeah.
and
well, dude, Knott's 50th is coming up, so you never know.
yeah. That would be
try
great.
to go through that process again.
I don't know. That would be great.
Yeah.
It's so different now, though.
Yeah.
So, but
thanks everybody for listening to my groveling and blah 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 blah.
Your rant.
Yeah, all the time. So.
All right, cool. Well, I will end the episode here, and you know, if we'll just end the episode here. So if you guys want to follow us on Instagram, it's around here somewhere.
Kabam!
Check it out. Yeah, it's on the screen somewhere.
Follow us if you guys have any questions for myself or Jeremy. Just message us there and we'll answer.
Yeah. So like and subscribe, share this with people. If not, enjoy it for yourself.
Yep.
So all right, guys. We'll see you in the next episode.
Adios.
See ya.